Gresh. He is Jason Anik.
You were playing everybody and we're winning the game last night.
The head coach is fighting people on the sideline.
What do you got for me?
I know you're a part of the Tight Pants Society.
No fucking play is that a gimme, right?
Let's go! Oh, it's another edition of Gas, and the Red Sox are doing well, so this day could end up being very interesting. Jason Anik, how are you? I love the I like your. I know I have like what looks like a jail behind me, but a different look for you. I like the shade pulled down. You are truly the man from parts unknown, like they used to do in wrestling.
Right? No, I hear you. Good to see you, buddy. Yeah, Gas Morning Drive, Tuesdays, 11 a.m. Appreciate all of you being with us. We'll be back in the studio hopefully next week or the week after. We're redoing the floors in my house, so everything had to sort of go. So wish me luck putting it all back together.
Yeah.
Hopefully you hear me decently in my kitchen.
No,
today.
you sound great. It's just it felt like a bunker. I tried to build one. It looked like you're in the bunker, but the estate is being upgraded, and that has to happen because Lord knows if you don't keep up with it, oh man, it's only goes sideways.
Are the skylights removed now?
Out. I now have to negotiate closet space in my wife's gigantic closet that has way more space than she needs. So I can get a little consolidation done on that end and maybe let me get in there, and then I can full blown turn a space into what I've been really wanting to do, which is just to be able to go into my own hovel. Everybody leave me alone. I can build it the way I want to, and everything is set up permanently. So, I'm like a frog's hair away, I think, from getting this done because it makes too much sense. That's the real issue is that, normally she would combat me with some gobbledygook, but yeah, this is just too easy for everybody in the house.
Well, and you've obviously done a lot of radio in your life, but these platforms are ever increasingly moving to video as well. Everybody wants to see your face too.
Yeah, in fact, I just got word yesterday that I'm going to do a show for VSiN. I'm doing it from the house, but they're in Vegas, but I'm doing, I think it's 4 to 8 on the 27th of July. I got like a lot of paperwork and, all that sort of pyro and ballyhoo and all that mess, but finally got in at VSiN, and this show was a part of it, and working with you was a part of it. So I got to thank you and Cody for making me look good.
Oh, get out of here. I didn't do anything. So you're repping Carhartt again. It's the second or third week, second or third time in the last 3 weeks where you haven't repped the sort of all gray. I like you keeping me honest with the wardrobe.
Yeah, this was a pure mistake on my part. I went downstairs, ended up getting a corn muffin and a Coke Zero and refilling my water, and then I forgot to bring the sweatshirt upstairs.
All right, I'm stopping there. So, I don't know if it's just Bostonians or New Englanders that like corn muffins. I fucking love me some corn muffins.
Oh, me too.
And I feel like as I've sort of lived more of my life in the rest of the United States and not in Boston, like corn muffins aren't that popular outside of New England or New York. Where did you get your corn muffin from today? Is it Dunkin' or what?
There's a little like bakery in Barrington called Vienna Bakery, and they do a good job with them, but a lot of times I'll just like grab them at BJ's or something. They'll make a ton of them. I just grab a box of them so that I know that I'm more picky. I'm probably more picky with coffee than I am with like a corn muffin or whatever. Like
you'll smash any old corn muffin. But I will say Berkeley and Jensen, BJ's, who you referenced, right? They do good business down here in Florida, all up and down the East Coast. They do make a pretty good corn muffin. But Gresh, I know you got a commitment at 12, but I like bullshitting with you. I know we're going to talk sports.
No, I know we'll get there, but it's also that time of year. Like, let me throw this at you, and I know that we said we'd probably get it at the end, but I know you're down with it. I threw this out to the audience on Sunday because right now we're in that sort of vast sports wasteland of, yeah, Wimbledon's on, but does anybody really care? The home run derby last night was cool. Here comes the All-Star game, and then baseball lays out for a week. So we're in that weird time where you're just kind of, talking big picture. And I threw to the audience, take away the top 5 for the MVP. So I went on DraftKings, and the 3-figure players that were from plus 550 to plus 750 was Lamar, Josh Allen, Patty Mahomes, Jaden Daniels, and Joe Burrow. So taking those 5 out, you're looking at the people that are plus 1,000 or more. Now, after Jaden Daniels at plus 750 was Jalen Hurts at plus 1,700. So there was a big gap between the top 5 and then everybody at 4 figures. I told America mine was Saquon Barkley at plus 5,000. Let's just keep bullshitting. So here we go. Is there anybody that comes to mind for you? There were a lot of quarterbacks in that 28 to like 3,500 range. And then there was Aaron Rodgers at plus 5,000. And I thought about it for a minute. And then I saw Saquon and I'm like, that guy finished 3rd. For running backs, you normally have to stack a couple of years. So Saquon got a lot of respect this year. His quarterback, I think, really isn't the kind of guy that's going to steal an MVP away from him. But if you're going to go for a long shot, man, oh man, that plus 5,000 on Saquon felt really juicy to me.
Gosh, the NFL MVP, I almost feel like I sort of sit on my hands now because my brother John Anik and I got burned bad. We had Brock Purdy a couple years ago to win the NFL MVP, and he was the front runner until Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens came in to San Francisco. I want to say it was Christmas Day, and Lamar Jackson stole away the MVP. Brock Purdy threw 4 interceptions. So I guess I would definitely have a hard time looking past a quarterback. And I don't have the numbers in front of me because this just was sort of sprung on me.
Yeah.
But I'd be curious to know when the last non-quarterback was to win this.
Okay, I think you got to go back to Sean Alexander. I can do a Google, but I was Sean Alexander and 2012. So was that a
Adrian Peterson? Cody put in there.
Okay. All right, so there we go. Yeah, but if you look at the running backs, they normally have a really good year and then they follow it up again. Jay, I went back and looked because I had to refresh myself. Marshall Faulk. In 99, Warner wins the MVP. But the year that Marshall Faulk had was arguably better than 2000 when he won the MVP. Then he had a 2001 year. So he had a 3-year window where he was second, first, and second. And his numbers were insane. And that's why I have faith that this can actually happen as a long shot, because everybody also gave Saquon a lot of credit for not trying to set the rushing record last year. In 2005, he shut it down. So I do think some voters give the guy credit for that. And if he follows it up with 1,800 and another 35 catches, and the Eagles are 14-3, that's all the ingredients that you would need to be able to win an MVP. And there is at least more precedent for a running back to win the MVP than there is a wide receiver to steal it. I mean, you got to have a massive year at wide receiver.
I think you make salient points, and I guess Cody's trying to pull up the numbers. Yeah, I mean, if I'm taking a long shot as we sit here on July 15th, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, right? Any of the chalk makes 0 sense this time of year. And I've said to myself, I'm not betting on this award until mid-season moving forward. Just because, I like Joe Burrow, if you're asking me today, just because I feel like I'm always bullish on the Bengals in preseason. But I do believe the Bengals are going to make the playoffs, and they are going to have a great year. And you could argue Lamar Jackson deserved it last year, but it was just Josh Allen's time. So if you're asking me today, I'll maybe hop on that bandwagon with Saquon in terms of a long shot. Any of these other guys I wouldn't consider. Now, what I will tell you is I was higher on Jaden Daniels than I was on Caleb Williams in last year's preseason, prior to the season even beginning. Yet
Okay.
for some reason, I placed a bet on the Bears to win the Super Bowl at the beginning of that last season and Caleb Williams to be the MVP. Had I done the same with the Commanders and Jaden Daniels, I might have had an interesting ticket or cash out opportunity as the year went on because Jaden really made some noise. So Jaden Daniels, I think, is interesting because I don't think he's going to step back, if you will. But yeah, for me, Burrow is chalk, but I kind of like Saquon too. I don't think he's going to fall back.
Well, Burrow right now is plus 650. Jaden Daniels is plus 750. That's probably about, unless Daniels plays his way out of it, that's probably among the best price you're going to get on Daniels, because I think that is only going to shrink as the season goes on. Here's a couple of just ones that stand out to me, right? Baker Mayfield at plus 2,500. Only because he's probably going to throw 35 to 40 touchdowns, right? You would think that, and that at least gets you on the radar. If his team if they win a division at 9-8, then he's got no shot.
Yeah, I like the value. I like the value, but without your guy Liam Cohen there, I think it might be tough for Baker to sort of be the best player in the league. But go ahead.
Drake May is plus 4,500 for those Pats fans who want to dream. And you know who is also plus 4,500, speaking of Liam Cohen, is Trevor Lawrence. Who would have thought that Drake May, and just a couple of years ago, the number 1 overall pick in the draft, would have the same odds for NFL MVP, even in long shot fashion? The defensive guys don't start showing up until the plus 10 and 15,000s. So, I mean, that basically defensive guys have no shot. Let me run this by you. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Travion Henderson, plus 1,800. So Ashton Genty is plus 250. Cam Ward is plus 350. Travis Hunter is plus 1,000, which feels juicy. But Travion Henderson at plus 1,800, that's pretty good respect for Offensive Rookie of the Year for a guy who will probably not be labeled as the starter.
Yeah, I hear you. I think Genty's the play there. I'd be surprised if I think he's going to have a very good year. He and Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward's going to be good too. Look, if Travion Henderson blows up, great. I don't think if Travion Henderson becomes a offensive Rookie of the Year, then the Patriots really may win 11, 12 games, as we discussed.
No, absolutely. And that's and look, I think he is at least in the discussion for it, which is good for the Patriots, and it's good for us as fans, and it's good for, I think the kid can really play. I think he's gonna ball out. And I know I'm just kind of jumping around, but only because I looked it up the other day. Vrabel is plus 600 and the favorite to win the Coach of the Year. So, and number one, you and I completely co-signed on that. We love Vrabel, but it is interesting that the guy who does the best coaching job every year doesn't necessarily win it, because it's really who takes a team from 4 wins to 8 wins and they make the big jump. And that's the one that people think is the Coach of the Year, when maybe they don't even do the best coaching job. It's kind of crazy.
Right. 100%. Like with what the Commanders achieved last year, like Dan Quinn has no shot to be the Coach of the Year, right? And unless they go like undefeated, just because there's not really room there, where Vrabel has a blank canvas, where, if the Patriots make the playoffs, which, many think they will. I don't know about that, but, then Vrabel certainly could. It doesn't shock me that he's a favorite.
I had Josh Applebaum of Eason on my Sirius show, and he said, "Hey, you got to shop around." He actually gave me the when I talked to him, he gave it to everybody on the air. He said, "I went and looked at the FanDuel, and over 7.5 is still at plus money on the pitch." So not only the number has not moved, the odds are still in your favor. The money is going in your favor to go over 7.5 for the Patriots, apparently, on FanDuel. Now, maybe they have corrected that. I'm not a user of that platform, but that was something, because the market overreacted in a way. There are some places that now have the Patriots over under at 8.5.
Well, and if you look at DraftKings, right, and I'll take a peek at FanDuel, but the over 7.5 juice to minus 235 makes perfect sense, right? I mean,
Right.
For the Patriots, if you ask me, gun to my head, guess Patriots record, I may go 8-9, right? So I don't love the over 8.5. I'm bullish on them because I think they could be great. Like I think they could win 12 games and have that big of a flip of the script. But no, I certainly like the over 7.5 a lot more than the over 8.5.
All right, so let's segue to the hottest team in Boston. That would be the Red Sox, where last night and yesterday there was a flurry of text messages in our text string over the Red Sox, and they're, what are they now, 51-45, something like that?
No, 53-45, 8 games over.
Oh, 8 games over, riding a 10-game winning streak. There's rumors of trading Jarren Duran, and yet here they are at the All-Star break on one crazy-ass roller coaster ride, and they sit here with the same record as the New York Yankees at the All-Star break.
No, that Cody said same record. No, Yanks have 2 less losses, 10 games over, but they're a game back. Gresh, Cody and I were very excited in our group chat.
Yes.
Right? And we'll talk about the Red Sox, but you respond to us, quote, "I love this fantasy baseball world y'all live in," right? No apostrophe in the y'all, but I like the y'all out of the New England, right? But Gresh, before we even talk about the baseball, what I like about you is that you're not afraid to be a fan, even if you're very real. So I'll start by asking you this, you definitely enjoyed the 10-game winning streak that's still going, right?
Kind of. I knew it was going on, but I didn't hop on to watch every night. Honestly, I didn't. It didn't. Here's what it is. I don't believe in this team. And I've been skeptical of the organization. This team is too streaky. I don't think they hit well enough. I still think they're going to trade away players before the break, because what it is they're going to see opportunity. It is the opportunity, especially now that they're riding high. It would, of course, listen, it's going to piss people off anyway if they trade Jarren Duran. But if they do it in the middle of a winning streak and they keep going, they got rid of Devers and have now ridden the 10-game win streak to where everybody forgot about Devers. In their mind, if they trade Durant, they think the same thing is ultimately going to happen. Now, maybe they can get a bumper crop of people for the guy. I don't know. But I think for me, Jay, this group is still too inconsistent. They're too bad in the field. They've done a good job. And listen, Rafaela's home run the other night was the magical stuff that happens during win streaks. I just don't think it happens enough for this particular group. That's really where I am on it.
Well, no, and that's fair. I guess I'm just going to enjoy it while it's happening, right? And in terms of the Devers trade, right? I was happy about that from the moment it happened, from an intangible and a chemistry standpoint. And so were you, for the most part. I think, even Jared Carabas, who I trust and know is as tapped in as anyone, he almost backtracked because he wasn't too happy about Devers being traded. But then he sort of realized, wait, maybe I don't have the best read on this clubhouse, because a lot of these guys are happy about it. And for me, you heard Bregman on the microphone talk about how much he loved Boston. I don't think any of that was hyperbole. I just believe right now in the chemistry, right? But yes, if you're asking me, the Red Sox are minus 115, I think, to make the playoffs. If you're asking me if I think they make the playoffs, I don't think so, right? If you're asking me, I'm not oh, let's go, right? I'm not Ken Rosenthal and Jeff Passan talking World Series necessarily.
No, that's nutty.
But am I enjoying sending text messages to my brother that says W10? I am. And I have a lot of confidence. And Garrett Crochet, I watched the entire complete game, and I haven't watched a lot of these games. I mean, dude is completely unhittable. He is locked up. Whether or not they lock up Bregman, I think there's some juice on both sides there. I think Bregman may want to stay. And look, if we talk about Jarren Duran, if they trade Jarren Duran, for a top line rotation guy to help them this year, that's a different conversation than trading him for prospects or selling, if you will. So
no, there you go.
What's up?
No, that makes sense. Like you're going to be upset if they trade Durant anyway. It's not going to feel good. But if they bring someone back that fills an obvious hole you have in the organization, it's just Jaron Durant. You then have to do it. Yeah. If there's great value there, you must trade him.
You know, and as a Red Sox fan who's now 47 years old, whenever we used to play against the Yankees, even after the Red Sox had won some World Series, I always felt like the Yankees sort of had that upper hand in a way, if that makes sense. Like I hate to say it like this, but I feared the Yankees a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. I really haven't felt that way for the last 5-6 years, even when the Red Sox have been in this downturn, right? 2021 beat the Yanks in the wild card, right? So Yankees don't want none of the Boston Red Sox. I'm telling you, they don't. I believe in the karma of this team a little bit. What are you holding up?
No. I'm resetting my white balance on my camera. Sorry.
Oh, gotcha. That's all right. I believe in Alex Cora to such a great extent. So do you, right? The fact and even when there were talks about Alex Cora and, if they lose a few in a row, his job may be in jeopardy. I'm glad they didn't. And look, Gresh, before they won 10 straight, they were 2 games under 500, right? And you were doing that, and we know, but they're 8 games over right now. They have some momentum. And I'm just interested to see if they can keep playing good baseball. They've won however many series in a row. They didn't lose the last game of the series, these last few series,
right,
like they have been accustomed to doing. So I'm just along for the ride. I'm excited, and it's not going to shock me. I said in a previous episode, I'll let you get in, that there are a lot of different ways to win a championship or get in that conversation, and they're in it.
So let me give you something positive about the Red Sox out of my brain, because normally with them, I'm just not a believer for many reasons. This 10-game win streak from a math standpoint, I mean, you think about it now, they were 2 under, so they go to +8. They've probably given themselves 4 games to be able to, get streaky the other way and stop it and still not wipe out what this win streak did, right? So it does gives them a little bit of cushion, and that's the win streaks in baseball, the real long ones, change your whole season. And this can end up being the one that ends up changing their whole season, but it's giving you a little bit of cushion. Can they stack on it whenever they get back from the All-Star break? We'll see. But at least what it's done is it's given them some wiggle room that if there still are going to be a couple more bumpy rides, which we should expect given the way this team has played this year, minus the current hot streak, that they've got a little buffer zone now. That hopefully, and look, maybe they add at the deadline. I think it's more likely that, someone gives them something too good to trade away one of their own. But the Yankees are pretty much tapped out. Toronto has made big concessions this year. And I think when you look around the American League East, even if the Red Sox make a minor move, it could end up being big, because I'm not so sure that the Yankees and the Blue Jays are going to make major moves.
I think the feng shui in that locker room with Devers gone, just the mojo showing up to the ballpark every day. You think about the 2004 Dirt Dogs, and even some of Kevin Millar's words about Nomar Garciaparra, that sort of once he was traded away, it sort of opened out, you know what I mean? There ain't no bad blood in the clubhouse anymore. And I feel like that's sort of the case right now. I think this team is showing up to the ballpark expecting to win. And I think that matters in baseball. I'm just excited to see what they can do. Lucas Giolito and Brian Bayo, right?
Giolito's been great. Yeah.
What's up?
So Giolito's been pretty good.
No doubt. And so has Bayo. But for me, wouldn't you think that both, that one, if not both, I hate to say it, likely to go the other way rather than continue consistently strong for the next 3 months? So I think part of the reason you win 10 in a row is because a lot of these things go right. Gosh, Chapman looks so, God, I believe in him anchoring the back of that. When you have an ace and you have a guy to close out ball games and you can hit, you fill in some gaps. I mean, it didn't shock me to hear Passan and Rosenthal speak in superlatives about this team, because I think if those 2 and 3 starters, Bayo and Giolito, can continue to be consistent, I think this club is going to show up thinking they can win every day.
I think in baseball, we underestimate how the clubhouse atmosphere and confidence go a long way for teams. Because right now, that's what they're riding.
You play every day. You're around each other all day long.
All the time. Yep. Yeah. And that's and look, the organization in part created the issue in the clubhouse with the way they handled Devers from the very beginning. And then Devers obviously turned around and made it worse. So,
you know what, though? I agree with you. And you've been on it with the organization. I've agreed with almost everything you've said. But the way the Devers whole thing transpired, if you go from spring training until the trade, they worked their way through the mud. It's like, how much of that blame's on Devers? 98%? You know what I mean? It's like, who knows how, gosh, I mean, I would love to know in a private conversation with Alex Cora what he did. You know what I mean? And if Alex Cora would look at himself and say, oh, maybe I could have handled this better. I'm not so sure. I feel like Devers is the common denominator with all that. Anyway.
Yeah, I think there was, at least to the outside world, there was a real disconnect as to who Rafi Devers really was. And then whenever it got really bad for him personally, the true him showed up even more and reminded the Red Sox why they probably needed to move on from him. So now the question is, are you a believer? I think the bigger question is, Jay, is the organization a believer? Does John Henry, sitting on his yacht with his much younger wife, by the way, sit there and, Chesterfield, I guess I'm going to have to go buy a baseball player.
Well, right. See, exactly. That's where I was going to go with it. Is he like, oh, fuck, 10 in a row? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Rest in peace, Larry Lucchino, but I can't imagine Larry Lucchino ever being upset about a winning streak, right?
No, never.
So that's the thing. It's like, and we talked about this a week ago, and we've talked a lot about baseball and the Red Sox and how we do a weekly show and how much changes in a week. And we talked about buyers versus adding last week, right? And gosh, I don't think you know the answer. I still think you need to let another week transpire. I think they need to see if they can keep a little bit of this momentum going. But yeah, it does feel like they really might need to add something if they're actually going to be in the conversation and hoist a trophy this year, Yeah,
because the division is one thing. Getting away from Tampa and Toronto and New York is going to be one thing. Then being good enough if you get matched up against Detroit. And let's also not underestimate what's going on in the West. And Cal Raleigh wins the home run derby. He is the home run leader at the break. He's having an unbelievable season. And normally when you have an MVP candidate, you end up somehow becoming a factor. So how do those teams in the West end up reacting? The Red Sox have to get out of their own gauntlet of a division, right? And then they can match up against Detroit. But I wonder what's going to happen out West, because Kyle Raleigh last night, obviously he wins the home run derby. It's a part of the romanticism of baseball. His brother was catching. His dad was the one throwing the pitches. That's the kind of hallmarky stuff that sort of connects with baseball and baseball fans. But, do they look at it and say, Jesus, this guy's having an unbelievable season. We can't let this go to waste. Someone is going to be an aggressive buyer. Is it going to be somebody who's trying to catch up, or is it going to be somebody who, in the American League East who is trying to just get out of their own division?
I would much rather see the Red Sox look to add arms than bats. I may be a little more confident in the bats than you are. So we'll see what happens. As I talk about those other starters, I like Giolito, man. Go look at some of the stuff from early in the season. It's hard for me to imagine that he's going to continue on this. You talk about Raleigh last night, the dumper. What's that, his nickname? But
yeah, his nickname is Big Dumper. Yes.
Big
So
Dumper.
it was Big Dumper at the plate, Little Dumper behind the plate, and Daddy Dumper throwing the balls to Big Dumper.
Well, Cody talked about it used to be must-see TV in the chat, and he didn't even know it was on last night. And gosh, Cody, I agree, man. Like, I used to want to watch. I don't even want to watch the home run derby. The All-Star game, obviously Jarren Duran was the MVP last season. That had a little bit of interest. Major League Baseball All-Star game is usually pretty fun to watch, but home run derby doesn't do it for me anymore. And I would say I'm getting old, but Cody's 15 years younger than me, so it ain't just my age.
No, and you know what it is? They've also now kind of muddied up the format a little bit.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's the top 8, and then out of those 4, then they put them in a bracket, and then they muddied it up and made it confusing. I watched it last night because I'm about to talk about it on Mad Dog Sports Radio, but for me I wasn't glued to the television, and there wasn't like a Josh Hamilton moment or anything like that. I hearken back to the 99 All-Star game in Fenway when they had those, the baseballs that were wound way tight. And believe it or not, a show that I worked on in Providence, we ended up cutting one of those baseballs open. From the home run derby and then like an All-Star game baseball, and they were definitely different. It's been noted by multiple people. But wind those things up and let people hit them 500 feet. That's what we ultimately want to see. Like, I don't care. You lose me with bracketing and you lose me with pitch limits and timeouts and shit like that. Just go out. Yeah, Earl Weaver used to say, and I know he's an old man baseball guy, but he would say, go get me a couple of big effers that can hit the ball out of the ballpark. And that's all I want to see. Put them together. Let them hit as many as they want as they can in a certain period of time, and then let them keep moving on, and let's clean this thing up and make it easy for everybody to understand. I tried to explain to my wife last night, and I got to the semifinal, and she goes, "You already lost me." She's like, "I'll just watch it." Like, she couldn't even like fathom it, digesting it, listening to it. We are like a week away from training camp. In fact, I've been tracking this. The Chargers rookies reported on the 12th. So technically we are in the 2025 NFL season. And I know as we sit around waiting for the latest like Patriots Hard Knocks to drop, don't they owe us one before camp or right around now?
Yeah,
I think Cody had looked that up. It was
forged in Foxborough.
There you go, the forged.
2.
Yeah, the forged in Foxborough thing. But are the Patriots about to begin their violence era?
Yeah, dude. I mean, I tell you, I've talked about how excited I am. We've talked about how excited you are. I don't know how long it's going to take for this team to get good again, right? Because, it could go the other way, right? But I don't know how long it's going to take. But I sure hope that 4 or 5 years from now, Mike Vrabel's still there and Drake May is still there. But it really does feel as though, I said last week on the show that it felt like an expansion team in a way. And I think you understood that point well, but I don't mean from a standpoint that it's like going to be a bad year. I mean that it feels like a new team. And so, gosh, last year felt not violent compared to this year, right? And even one little blip from Mike Reese's column, Gerard Mayo starting practices at 11 a.m., Mike Vrabel 10:15. Yeah, the fuck did he start at 11 a.m.? Let's go, But yeah, no, I absolutely think the head coach, there is going to be a trickle down.
Yeah, I'm the only thing that I'm hearing are good things out of the building, which is that there's a different sense of purpose. Excuse me. From what I hear in the building, like it is. Whereas before it was more, Mayo was turning it into a country club, especially, like Vrabel would probably be closer to Belichick than Mayo, right? But if Mayo did his way of coaching after Vrabel, it wouldn't feel as drastic going from all of the rules of Bill to then, the almost no rules with Gerard Mayo, right? So it felt very drastic. And when you say feels like an expansion team, I think that's a little bit of what you mean. Last year, Bill bottomed out. Mayo bottomed out worse. So to your point, I understand the feel of this feels like the truest version of a year one of a rebuild, except it wasn't that bad last year. Like the talent wasn't that bad. Same for when Bill was here too. It was just the dumper season to where they could finally get rid of the guy because the Crafts feel like they lost control. But there was enough talent there that you could win with. And a lot of those people are still here that, Vrabel's going to have a chance to win with. And those are the seasoned pros and the people that they brought in who, are going to play to a level of expectations. That's my biggest bitch with Gerard Mayo, is that there was no setting of expectations other than we're going to be kinder, gentler, softer, and just be the opposite of Bill. That was it. Vrabel's come in with a purpose and has got the guys apparently seeing the purpose in what they're doing now. And there is, even within, front office people that I talk to, there's a real belief up and down the building, like from the business people and everything. It's just completely different there now that Vrabel's in.
Why am I so much more bullish on this draft class as a whole than any draft class in the last 15 years, right? I'm well documented that I thought Bill Belichick overall was not a good talent evaluator as sort of the number one voice in the room. But Elliot Wolf is not a new part. I guess for me, I'm asking you the question, why am I so bullish on this draft class? And is it because Mike Vrabel, maybe when A.J. Brown got traded out of Tennessee and he lost his mind, he said himself, I'm going to make my voice known in the draft room. But I feel like there's just, the leadership is just so different. And
I'll tell you, let me try to fill in some gaps as I see it, right? Whenever the Mayo group was drafting, the first pick, there was no level of intrigue, right? Whichever of the three fall to us, we'll just take that guy and hope for the best. That was their strategy, right? And then the draft really began with the second round. And I think most fans were impatient and they wanted a wide receiver addition to the roster. And I think the team felt that. I think the organization felt that. And I think, in all honesty, I think Elliot Wolf wanted to draft a wide receiver in the second round. And then after that, I think people start to lose interest. So you know what it was, Jay? I think people last year were fulfilled with, hey, we got the quarterback and whatever else. Now it feels like you have people that are drafting guys that are not just filling needs for the football team, but are going to come in and be players. Like, we have much more confidence in we have much more confidence in Tre'Davion Henderson than we ever did Jalen Polk last year, correct?
Right.
Because when you add an offensive lineman and you have a quarterback and you now have a different coordinator, that's also a part of the feel maybe of last year, is that some of the guys maybe didn't get used best. So it makes you feel a little different about the hope with this class. But I feel like in their top four picks, they got one guy who's going to start from day one. They have one guy who's going to be a consistent contributor. And then I think they got two guys that are at worst going to be rotational players. And then if you've drafted a kicker who, let's be real, like people crap on kickers all the time. I don't crap on players that score points. And, people will devalue the kicker and you don't realize you don't have one until you don't have one. Hence Nick Folk coming here for a couple of years in New England. But, people make jokes about, the kicking game. Well, punters don't lead to points. Bull crap. Yes, they do. They lead to field position, which leads to points. And, so the back end of the draft feels like it's going to be useful as well. There's only a couple of players in there where you look at and say, yeah, I don't know, maybe if they're going to be good enough to make the roster, they may have to start the year on the practice squad. But if you got 5 or 6 guys, especially when you're stealing some on the back end of the draft, that feel like they're going to come in and contribute. Maybe that just explains the difference in the feeling of these two draft classes.
Well, and I think Belichick a lot of times tried to get cute. I really do. And I think he was super cocky. And I think he tried to draft guys nobody had heard of, like Cole Strange. Whereas this almost felt like the opposite, whereas they're doing what needs to be done, right? And a couple of things on Jared Wilson from Mike Reese's column, right? So I guess Stacy Searles, who's a 30-year veteran coach. You've probably heard of him. I hope I pronounce his name right? But he was University of Georgia offensive line coach, right? And talking about Jared Wilson, right? And talking about this being like a long-term answer for the Patriots. And he's coached offensive line for 30 years. He's, quote, I've had 9 or 10 centers go and play in the NFL. Jared is the most athletic of any of them, right? Dude ran a 4.8, 40-yard dash, right? I know they have Garrett Bradbury, who Drake May knows. He may be the starter, right? But I'm as bullish on Kyle Williams as anyone. We're all talking about Trevion Henderson, right? Some of these guys maybe won't pan out, but these top 4, like the fact that you might have Jared Wilson starting right next to Bill Campbell in this same class and those guys playing with Drake May potentially for a very long time. I mean, I tell you what, man.
All right, so you're all fired up about those offensive guys. Now, I'm not taking the piss out of you, but difference of a feel year to year. If I told you that Alex Van Pelt was the offensive coordinator, would you be as excited as opposed to Josh McDaniels, where he makes you look at those players differently because you've seen his offense?
Great question. Great way to put it. I had to convince myself that Alex Van Pelt was the perfect hire, right? Like, I can't even believe I was trying to convince myself of that. And maybe it's because I don't even know. I liked Gerard Mayo, I think, a ton as a player. And I think that sort of entered into my brain a little bit. But either way, I can't wait. I know we're up against it, up against the clock. But, dude, I cannot wait for the Patriots season. It's gonna shock me if they disappoint.
Me too. And do you have some UFC 318 thoughts before we end up getting out of here?
Yeah, I'm just curious, and I'm going to put you on the spot. Did you watch any of the fight card last weekend?
With Derek Lewis? Yes. Watch the whole thing. Yes.
Yeah, and since you said Derek Lewis, I mean, how about Derek Lewis? Who do you want next? Who do you want next, Derek? I want my wife, right? I mean, like, dude is just electric on the mic. And I felt like there was a real opportunity. I think he was plus 210, but oftentimes the Black Beast in those spots, a lot of value, where he's the underdog, you get an up and comer, right? Cody puts there 3-1 by knockout. So there you go. But in terms of that card, I will say, right? Steve Garcia against Calvin Kattar. You have a fight, Steve Garcia, in hindsight 2020, but I may have some receipts somewhere if you're curious. But Steve Garcia, minus 125. I think it closed as minus 140 against Calvin Kattar. Kattar had lost 4 straight fights. Love the Bostonian. But you get this guy, Steve Garcia, coming in, having finished 5 straight fights by knockout. Looked like a really big 145er. I just thought there was a lot of opportunity there when, oftentimes in the UFC, you have these young up-and-comers facing the old guy, gatekeeper, if you will. And I just thought from a gambling standpoint, there was an opportunity, I hate to say it there, to fade Calvin Kattar. So anyway.
Yeah, I hear you on that. And what did you make of the end of the Teixeira Lewis fight? I know there were some people that were like hooting on Jason Herzog, but I thought it was a great stoppage because Teixeira used the fence to like pull himself up. And to me, that was enough reason to be able to stop the thing.
So Cody's saying good stoppage. I don't think my brother thought it was a good stoppage, and he's pretty close with Herzog, as a lot of us are. But what I'll say is that, I guess for me, the fence grab can't just be, all right, it's like, we're waving it off, we're stopping it, because the combination of the fence grab, and I understand, and it's close to being you know what I mean? To me, it was the combination of those two things. You either sort of take a point for the fence grab. It's not easy being a referee, but no, I think it was maybe a little bit premature. Did he protect a heavyweight perhaps from taking some extra shots?
Yes.
Sure. And I think in Herzog's defense, I think it was a tough moment that maybe it was sort of like like the combination of everything, the fence grab and we're just going to call it now. Whereas I did think that, I don't know how he should have handled that fence grab, right? But I do think it was slightly premature, but I'm not tripping on it here on a Tuesday morning.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Any more word as to if the White House is luring John Jones out of retirement?
Well, and everything that I said last week, I feel the same way. And I was talking about Conor and John Jones, and then it comes out several days after. But I still think that's going to happen. I'll believe it not happening when I see it. I think we're going to hear more and more about it. It'll be just like Sphere. UFC can create it. And John made a point yesterday, which I think is very valid. Even if it's 20,000 people, it's all going to be VIPs, right? It's not going to be some ticketed event. That does change things tremendously.
No question. You got to build because I talked about now the pay-per-view card really matters because you're not getting, 15 million in gate revenue and stuff like that.
But I will say quickly on 318, right? Dustin, the Diamond Poirier. Gosh, I believe in him. It's hard for me to envision him losing his retirement fight. I said on the Anik and Florian podcast yesterday, I do think there's a little bit of pressure on Holloway in a weird way. Do you really want to go 0-3 against Alexander Volkanovski and 0-3 against Dustin Poirier, even though Holloway's had a brilliant career? So it's hard for me to imagine Holloway ruining this night for Poirier. Not like it's going to be ruined either way. Any leans for you and your boys going into this main event?
I think the lean is Poirier. Now, for me, I'm hoping that Poirier wins so he can take that belt and just take it home with him. Like, just time to end that. Just time to end that thing, in my opinion. But no, I'm going to go with.
I agree.
It's jumped the shark now. It was cool for a while, but if Poirier wins, even if Max wins, take it home, put it on the shelf.
Well put. Totally agree.
I appreciate you guys. Cody, great job. Give Cody a follow on Twitter at Cody_Mero. Then you'll be able to find everything else at Boston Anik, at The Real Gresh. I will see you all week, folks, on Mad Dog Sports Radio, noon to 3 p.m., and then again on Saturday morning, 8 a.m. to noon, and then on Infinity Sports Radio on Sunday from 10 a.m. to 2. And, of course, right back here next Tuesday at 11 a.m. with my man Jay for another edition of Gas.